All right, we are live. Hello, Katie, Catherine. What do you prefer to go by?
Either or, I'm not fussed.
This is Catherine slash Katie. So great to finally be able to connect with you and chat. I know we've been talking about this for a while. I don't know if you'd like to introduce yourself, maybe.
um, Hi, I'm Catherine. I have FND and fibromyalgia.
Did you say you have FND?
Yes.
We just talked
Okay.
to you,
I know
Olivia.
Olivia.
Olivia also has FND, and I was chatting
Yes,
with her
I know
last
her
weekend.
very well. We are actually in almost a subgroup from one of the support pages on Facebook we're both on.
Oh,
So we
really?
actually have video chats quite a lot.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
we didn't realize that we were the other
Back-to-back
person
interviews.
commenting on the Instagram videos. So that was actually quite interesting to find out.
Oh my
I
gosh.
thought that was funny. And then the whole timing of it, like we didn't discuss or say, hey, we specifically discussed this disorder or anything. We just, Olivia had wanted to chat with us. And then you had both messaged us and we're like, well, we need to do Olivia and then you'll be next Sunday. So I just think it's really awesome to kind of have back to back two different,
Yeah, two different sides of kind of like having the same FND, which is functional neurological disorder. I learned last week from Olivia. Um, when were you diagnosed, Catherine?
I was diagnosed uh, August last year. It took about 3 years for me to get diagnosed.
What did you have like symptoms or anything, or how did it?
Um, I had sort of medically unexplained symptoms from the time I was about 10, because I was in hospital for in and out of hospital for about 2.5 years. And then I sort of had unexplained pain afterwards that I just kind of lived with. I thought it was kind of like normal. Um, and then um, in the latter part of 2017, yeah, 2017, because I was going to the chiropractor and that was kind of helping me kind of deal with the pain I was having.
Mhm.
And my right shoulder went into spasm for 3.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
Um, and I was put on all sorts of medication. I was on morphine, I was on tramadol, um, sort of loads of stuff. Like I can't really remember Christmas of that year. I was just I was out of it for about 3 months with what I was taking.
and were the
Um,
doctors just like no idea and just running all the
yeah,
different.
it was just kind of we're just going to kind of dose you up to the eyeballs, really. Um, and
Is this
then
like is this connected to the fibromyalgia? Because you mentioned that, or is it
yes,
something separate?
what kind of happened was because of all the spasms, I ended up going to the pain management clinic locally,
Hmm.
and I saw the head physiotherapist there,
Uh-huh.
and she turned around after the first appointment and said, "I think you have this," hence the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, um, which is a umbrella term for the symptoms that I had. But I was having symptoms that weren't like fibromyalgia. So I was just having sort of the people I was going to were saying, your fibro is not acting like fibro. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, that's interesting.
Do you mind explaining a bit of the fibromyalgia, what that entails and what the symptoms are?
Pain, lots of it, constant. Um, so it's fatigue, it's
Wait a
uh,
minute, so was it fibromyalgia, or you're saying like an umbrella term? Like, was it actually the FND and they misdiagnosed it, thought it was?
it's actually they give me a dual diagnosis because
Oh,
they
okay.
are both there's no tests for them.
Hmm.
But they
It
tend to
doesn't.
run
It doesn't. Fibromyalgia and FND, they do not show up on any tests, any
Oh.
scans, nothing. That's kind of what Olivia meant when she said it's a software problem, not a hardware problem.
Yes. Oh,
So,
okay.
so
Yes.
when you have, for example, you and Tawnie had strokes, you can see that in a scan, and
Uh-huh.
you have like the picture of that.
Right.
Whereas what we have, you can't see it. It doesn't show up on anything.
How do
So
they know that it's being properly diagnosed?
that's where the symptoms come in. You basically go through this huge list of symptoms and you sort of look at it and you go, yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. And the that's how they diagnose it basically, is just by how many of these symptoms you have. Um, and yeah, it's still quite a new thing that's actually been recognized, because a lot of the time, it was sort of like a conversion disorder. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time they do think that it's either caused by physical or mental trauma.
Okay.
Um, Personally, I have depression, anxiety, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So um, we kind of think that's kind of accurate for me.
Oh, and how old were you when you were diagnosed with the fibromyalgia and the
I was
FD?
at the I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at the end of January 2017, which was the week after I lost my job.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
very
I
recent.
was at that time studying accounting.
So you were a student at the time?
Mhm. And I had a apprenticeship.
Okay.
Um,
And what was the
and
job?
I lost that, because it got to the stage where I couldn't open filing cabinets and I couldn't lift the folders and things like that. And there was just no way to accommodate limitations that I ended up with. Um, so a week after that, I was diagnosed with the fibromyalgia, um, and I was sort of having hydrotherapy and things like that. Um, and um, yeah, and there were still lots of things that weren't explained
Mm-hmm.
in while I was doing it. So um, the the end of, um, that's not what I was. Um, so basically, yeah, I had the fibromyalgia, and I kind of went from having a spasm in my shoulder, and I was losing my balance. I was falling a lot. Um, by March, I was using a walker, a, 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 a
Uh-huh.
wheeled rollator. By August, I was in a manual wheelchair being pushed by someone else because I couldn't propel myself. And by November, I'd actually bought myself a electric wheelchair because I had just lost all my independence and I was actually going nuts. Um, my depression was getting really bad. Sort of the hydrotherapy had sort of stopped because sort of we have this amount of sessions and then it
Mm-hmm.
stopped,
Sure.
uh, and things like that. And it was, and sort of I was getting like my depression was getting worse. I was in like this huge downward spiral at that point, and um, it was really bad. And then the September of that year was quite nice. We got my dog Cookie because we've got Rupert.
Aw.
We got another dog Cookie. She's absolutely adorable. Tawnie has seen her quite a lot.
Pets
um,
are definitely amazing for
yeah, she's been really useful, and one of my long term goals is to be able to walk back on the beach with her. Um, yeah, so
Are you using the electric wheelchair now? You mentioned?
yes, I have to use the electric wheelchair when I'm out of the house because I can't walk any distance. Um, I don't use it inside the house because we can't get it in the house.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So
but
how do you move about when you're in the house?
I have because it's because it varies
Hmm.
a lot. It's sort of some days I can sort of just about get up and down the stairs and around my living room.
Uh-huh.
Um, Now we have the stair lift. On days where I can't walk, I can
Mhm.
now still get downstairs, which has been a huge game
Oh,
changer.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
so glad you have that now.
and there are days where I wake up and I'm completely paralyzed and I can't move at all.
So it kind of varies on a day by day.
Yeah. Um,
Question, because I remember one thing Olivia mentioned when I was talking to her last week was epileptic seizures. Is that something you have with FND too?
I have non-epileptic seizures.
None. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
No,
Non-epileptic
none.
seizures. So they are. I still have seizures, but they're not epileptic.
Not epileptic.
Um,
Are they because of the FND?
yes. I didn't have seizures when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. One of my main triggers for it is touch.
Oh, really?
Like unexpected touch, especially on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I've got auditory pain triggers, such as bells and tambourines, which
Oh.
really sucks when you go to folk clubs. Um,
Yeah, that's not. So that
and
could like
Christmas
induce
music is a
that.
nightmare.
I know, I was like, you mentioned Christmas. I didn't realize it's all bells. Like, wow.
Yeah. And then uh, because I sing as well, I've had to change the way I sing. And if I
Oh,
sing my high notes wrong, I can send myself into a seizure.
oh my gosh.
Um, but I still do it.
Yeah.
You're such
And
a warrior.
how long are the seizures?
They can vary from sort of about 30 seconds to, I don't know, how, 20 minutes apparently. I don't, I kind of lose track of time when I'm in one of those.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah.
And
Mum's my,
how frequently does that happen?
it really depends on like the week
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm doing. Um, so, for example, with COVID, there's actually been, I feel bad saying it, but there's been some upsides. Um, One is the social distancing. People do not come up and touch me unexpectedly.
Yes,
So
that's
that has
definitely a plus.
reduced them dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's kind of nice that I don't, when I go out the house, it's always sort of a risk assessment of, right, am I going to get lost in my hometown because I suddenly can't remember where I am?
Uh-huh.
Um, and I've lived in the same place my entire life, and I'm 23, and I
23.
get lost. um, it's, am I going to meet people I know? Am I going to um, am I going to be in a place where someone might touch me? Am I going to be somewhere where there's probably going to be auditory pain triggers? It's all that kind of thing.